So welcome back to the Dogs and Deadlifts podcast. So today our guest on the podcast is Laurie Roberts from Syndicate Hounds, all the way from Kansas. Welcome.
Hi there. How's it going?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me today. I really appreciate that. I know that you just mentioned a little bit earlier that it snowed quite heavily over the last day.
Yeah. Last night we went to bed. There was nothing. It was 50 degrees. Woke up this morning and there's 3 or 4 inches out there, and the dogs had to hop to go outside. So
You mentioned that how quickly. I'm not too familiar with obviously every state in America, obviously being an Australian, but how quickly it can change, and the competition and the weather is looking great for the weekend. Is that right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My first field trials this weekend, and we're headed down to Arkansas, which is kind of southeast US,
Yep.
and it's supposed to be, mid 60s, mid 70s, and it's just going to be beautiful. So I'm really excited. Not too hot yet.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about overheating. So
Yeah, fantastic. So, for our listeners out there, let's jump into a little bit about your background. And today we wanted to chat about a number of things, but primarily lure coursing and some of the offshoots events around that. But let's take us back to I suppose a little bit about yourself, your history, your dogs, and things like that.
right. So I'm a farm girl. My family farms.
Mm.
Grew up, had dogs on the farm, but my passion was horses. I showed horses for over 30 years.
Yeah.
That was my sport,
Mhm.
and ended up, I got fibromyalgia, and it just kicked my butt.
Mhm.
There was just no way to continue in horses.
Yeah.
I sold all them, and was looking for an outlet, and I was ready for another hound. My mother had Afghans when I was little, and I thought, well, maybe I'll get another Afghan. And I thought, nope, too much hair. And um, I ended up getting my first Iberian hound
Okay.
in 2015,
Mhm.
and got my breeder contacted me, and she had his aunt needed rehomed, and I picked her up too. So there I had two, and uh, almost Magda's almost 3 years. So there was a really neat litter
Mhm.
was born, and there I had three. And
Mhm.
now this last winter I got a Saluki.
Yeah.
So three IBs and hounds and a Saluki. Uh, but you
Fantastic.
know, my first I call them real dogs because it wasn't just a farm dog. It was, my companion. I started showing conformation with
Mhm.
my breeder,
Mhm.
and her dogs were um, monsters on the field. They
Yep.
were great runners.
Yep.
And so it was just obvious I was going to go run this dog. And his first run, it was perfect. And it was at our breed national. And I thought, great. And she's going, oh yeah, you got to course her. That dog's going to run.
Yep.
So we get up to our second run, and he did great. And on his third run, he pulled up.
Okay.
Um, he quit running.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh no. And I thought, well, darn it, that's not good. And I went and got him, and he was just kind of sore.
Mhm.
And at the time, I didn't know anything about fitness
Mhm.
for dogs. And my breeder, they have a huge yard and they go run, and that's just what they do.
Yep.
Um, but every time I went to run him after that, he'd always pull up lame on the first day, and we could never get past it.
Mhm.
And so I started searching, and because my background in horses, I know horses are athletes. Well, dogs are athletes too.
Mhm.
And I found Erica Bowling
Mhm.
online, Northeast Canine Conditioning, and I did a consult with her, and we started working together to get him over this
Mhm.
issue. And, you know, it just kind of persisted. And I thought, well, he's not going to be a runner.
Sure.
And so I just kind of, would run him maybe once a year, and there we'd be lame for 2 weeks afterwards. And I thought there's got to be something better
Hmm.
than this for him.
Yep.
And I think age was a factor for him.
Hmm.
He's a very tall, gangly kind of a guy,
Yep.
and he just had to catch up.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was like, I really want to know how to do better for my dogs.
Yep.
And it just, COVID hit. And all last year, I'm just kind of sitting around because I lost my job, I got laid off, and
Yeah.
I'm working on my fitness. I was training for some fitness competitions, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just, if they're going to have any courses, any trials this year, I want my dogs to be ready.
Yep.
So then I got back in contact with Erica,
Mhm.
and then that's when I decided to go through her program,
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
because I knew that there were, most people lure coursing don't do the fitness piece.
Hmm.
They like jog their dogs
Yep.
straight line down the road.
Yep.
And that's how they condition. But
Yeah.
there are so many different aspects.
Yeah, for sure. And I've had Erica on the podcast previously as well. She's been a mentor and a coach to me, a friend as well. So we're definitely on the same page, and we've it's great to talk to someone else that has very similar mindset, etc. We're just obviously looking to apply it into a different sport.
Right.
And would you agree that a lot of people think, as you mentioned, your breeder said you've got a natural here, um,
Right.
with just genetics. Genetics
Yes.
are naturally there. However, there's so much other things that go into keeping a dog, programming and keeping the dog injury free, so they can do it for a
Yes.
long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. With sight hounds, um, they either are going to chase it or they're not.
Mm-hmm.
They either have that drive or they don't.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do, then you know they can outrun themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They can be running so hard, they'll go into a turn and they're injured.
Yep.
Um, and I think if you want to compete at top levels, on the big courses, which the ones this weekend are going to be around 650 yards,
Mm-hmm.
700 yards.
Yep.
But I'm taking Magda to the American Sighthound Field Association International Invitational a couple
Mm-hmm.
weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Those courses are going to be 950 yards, and
Yeah.
she'll
Right.
run at least twice,
Mm-hmm.
probably 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a long day.
Yeah.
There's definitely time in between
Mm-hmm.
where they get to recover,
Mm-hmm.
but it's if they're not going to stay sound, they're not going to stay happy, and they're not going to have longevity in the sport if they aren't conditioned properly.
Mm. And I know that before we jumped on air, you mentioned that you had a quick listen to last night's podcast, with Dr. Connor Brady there. Hopefully,
Yes.
hopefully, you got some takeaways from that as well, and that's what we're trying to do
Oh,
is,
we did.
there's some great little information there, on how we can, it all starts with nutrition. I say it over and over and
Yes.
over, right? For you and your dogs to perform at their peak 3 times in a weekend over 900 yards, they've got to get that energy coming. And obviously
Yes.
they need fitness, of course, conditioning. However,
Yes.
they need that constant, they need the energy source to come from
E-
somewhere.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was really interesting listening to him talk. Uh, the nutritionist I work with is Dr. Athena Kepler,
Mhm.
and she developed my program for me.
Yep.
And I've seen such improvement over the day,
Hmm.
and I don't worry about them being too tired on the second day,
Yeah.
because we'll run Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
So it was just so interesting to see that by the second, third run, they still had that energy there.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
And it's super important. And we won't talk too much about nutrition, but we've got a whole podcast, an hour podcast on it. If you want to go have listen to that, and I've interviewed some other people as well. But it really is super important to get that nutrition and also hydration correct.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, hydration so important. Lots of people, I noticed, kind of limit their dogs.
Hmm.
Uh, Sometimes at trials, I have a bucket of water in front of my dogs from the second we pull up. One of the first things I do is put a bucket of water either in their crate or their X bin, depending on how I have them
Hmm.
contained. And the only time I limit them in any way is right after they come off the field. I have a little container that turns into a bowl,
Hmm.
and I walk when I'm walking them out.
Hmm.
I give them little drinks. I don't let them gulp right after
Yep.
they run. But as soon as I feel like their respiration is down, I put them, they're allowed to have as much water as they want.
Yeah.
So, but the big important thing, I don't use electrolytes.
Hmm.
Um, I do use coconut water
Okay.
as a natural source.
Yep.
I don't use man-made electrolytes,
Yep.
but getting their protein and carb in them within 30 minutes
Hmm.
after they run.
Hmm.
Um, when I started, it was get yourself some NutriCal, get honey, just squirt it in their face, you know,
Yep.
uh, otherwise they'll crash.
Yep.
And what I've learned over the years is glycemic crash is what happens then.
Yep.
But if you give them a good natural source of protein and carb, because I have anaerobic sprinters,
Hmm.
um, they digest that slower,
Hmm.
and it's a slower release
Yep.
over the day, and it works so much better,
Yeah.
so much better.
Yep.
So
Yeah, for sure. And and that's why obviously we're here. We're talking about this type of stuff. Nutrient timing is so important. For that for me to rebuild that energy source and then go again. Especially if you're doing a number of runs over the weekend.
mhm.
So really excited to talk about this stuff because a lot of people they're not educated or they just don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, right? you know
Right,
so
right.
um but sort of moving forward, let's obviously you got the hounds, and that was your catalyst to get involved with this particular sport, and it just so happened that
Mhm.
they were good at it.
Yeah,
For people
yeah,
out
I was lucky.
for people out there that have never done any form of coursing or cat events and things like that, can you give us a bit of a rundown on obviously their ANKC event, etc., but or a kennel club, but can you just give us a bit of a how can they get involved?
Well, now in Europe, I don't know about Australia. I didn't
Mhm.
get a chance to look that up, but they
That's
do
okay.
have lure coursing in Europe. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's FCI, I think.
Yep.
But it's a take a what we call a flirt pole,
Hmm.
and it's just a pole with a string on it.
Hmm.
Tie a toy, tie a
Hmm.
plastic bag, just something fur, and take it in your yard and see if they are interested in it.
Yep.
Because if they're not, I mean, they can learn to do it, but
Hmm.
they're not going to be intense with it. I
Yep.
actually, one of my obeisans absolutely will not lure a course. She
Hmm.
has no interest in a
Yep.
bunny, in a bag, nothing. If it's live prey, it's probably going to die. But if it's if it's fake,
Yep.
nope, not a chance.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
find a club in your area.
Hmm.
Get online, start asking people in your area
Hmm.
uh, if they're going to have a practice or a trial or something.
Hmm.
Usually at trials, they'll at the end, at the beginning or the end, they'll do qualifying courses or fun runs,
Hmm.
and you can take your dog out and see if they'll actually chase the lure.
Yep.
And if they do, great. Then you need to start conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they don't, hey, no big deal. Um, and that's, you know, how most people get started.
Hmm.
I also do straight racing,
Hmm.
large um, LGRA, Large Gaze Hound Racing Association, and that's a 200-yard dash.
Okay.
And they run 4 hounds at a time.
Hmm.
And it's literally 200 yards as fast as you can go. the first one over the line wins.
Okay.
And those are lots of fun. That's a good way to start dogs as well, because it's a straight line, less chance of injury. If you have an older dog, less chance of injury,
Yep.
no turns.
Yep.
And they have what's called a squawker, and it's a fur covered squawking thing that it's on a drag lure, and it just starts squat. They wave the flag, and that thing goes, and you just let go of the hounds, and there they go roaring down the field. So it's awesome. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and
Um,
fantastic. And I know that we spoke briefly before so the cat events, or the fast cat events, they've sort of been
yes.
popping up in the last little while as well. So can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes, those are all breed events. And
Hmm.
I think they came about because people with non-sight hounds wanted to compete.
Hmm.
And it's cat is coursing ability test. And it's one dog.
Hmm.
You run one dog at a time. And cat is a pass or fail. There's no score.
Hmm.
Like with lure coursing, they score them on different traits and stuff.
Yep.
For cats, it's a pass fail from the judge.
Hmm.
Up to 18 inches is 300-yard course.
Hmm.
And then over is a 600-yard course. So
Hmm.
fairly short,
Yep.
pretty easy on them.
Yep.
And they basically just go out and run their little hearts out. And it's just so much fun to see other breeds do that. It's more of a chase thing for them. It's not the same, what I've
Yes.
noticed.
Yep.
I went to an event last month, and the non-sighthound breeds, it's a different kind of running, and they're just having a blast out
Yep.
there. They're chasing their toy, and it's really neat.
Yeah.
And then they also have fast cat, and that's 100-yard dash. They are timed. They have little timer eyes at the beginning and at the end, and they run as fast as they can for 100 yards. They chase the lure, and their runs are averaged to get a speed.
Hmm.
Um, and at the end of the year, then they are ranked by speed, and then they get invited to the year-end invitational at the big show in Florida. It used to be the Eukanuba. I think it's the Royal Canin in
Yep.
Florida.
Yep.
And a lurcher won it last year, which is so cool. I know there's some sight hounds that do it.
Yep.
Actually, a relative of my Saluki puppy was the fastest Saluki in the States. It was
Yeah.
so cool.
Fantastic. On that, I love the concept. I absolutely love it. I love the fact that it's all breed and all sizes. It's fantastic. And when in a culture that is for people looking for things to do with their dog, physically, mentally stimulating them, why not? And
Yes.
the other thing that I like as well is
Yeah.
the fact that it's a straight line, and therefore the potential for injury is lessened quite a lot.
Exactly. And the one I went to, I'd never done anything like that before. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be
Mhm.
helping people
Mhm.
um, get their dogs in shape, I need to know what they're
Yeah.
doing. So I entered my dogs and we went. And it was great because it was all contained.
Hmm.
They had fencing up, so the dogs couldn't get loose at the end. If they didn't catch them at the end, they could run all the way back to the start and they're still contained. It
Yep.
was safe.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just it was really great. And I think the sport of coursing is evolving because now
Yep.
the AKC, the ASFA, American Sighthound Field Association, as a sighthound uh, coursing group club,
Hmm.
and they're now doing LCI
Hmm.
class, which is all breed. So
Yep.
now they're being inclusive as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's how our sport is going to be relevant,
For sure.
stay relevant.
Yep.
Clubs are going to survive this way because they make a lot. They're going to make a lot. They make a lot of money
Mm.
doing that. It's
Yeah.
keeping clubs afloat.
Yeah.
So
For
yeah.
sure. Like I was looking at the the Australian Kennel Club, ANKC, and I was looking on their website, and they were saying that coursing is one of their fastest growing activities in regards to participation over the, moving into 21 and 22.
Yes, yeah. It's growing, and there's a lot of old timers out there saying, "Oh no, this is going to be horrible for the sport." I think it's great for the sport.
Yeah.
And I think as sighthound people, it's important for us to educate. And I was lucky, if you're a sighthound person and you get a puppy from a reputable breeder, they set you up, they give
Yeah.
you that information, they mentor you.
Hmm.
And a lot of the non-sighthound people don't have that. So I think it's important to get the information out.
Yeah, for sure.
What's safe, you know?
That's exactly right. And then, we'll talk about training and how you go about, training very shortly. But, I absolutely love it. I'm so excited. I went to a fun day in my city. It was only 5 minutes on a field, 5 minutes from my house on the weekend, a lure coursing fun day. And it was great. It was great to see. But, from coming from my background, the first thing that I pop up is, oh shit, that dog's flying around that corner. Was there a warm up done? Was there stretching done? You know what I mean? Like, these are my
Yeah.
going through my head. Um, you know, Injury, is that an injury waiting to happen? you know.
Yes,
Mm,
exactly. And it does happen. I have to say, um, Erica and I were so excited about maybe about getting the fitness piece out there. I'm launching my website this weekend, and I'm writing an ebook just for beginners. It's for beginners. Anybody can read it, will be able to read it. But
mhm.
what what are the this is the least you need to know to go run your dog.
Yep.
And I designed it for cat people, beginners, newbies,
Mhm.
people that they may not know. I've seen dogs, people that were non-sighthound people. I saw a dog die at a trial because the people didn't have their a crate in their car.
Mhm.
They didn't have the doors open. They didn't walk it out. They threw it in the car with the windows cracked a little bit, and it was May. It was
Mhm.
90 degrees, and that dog was
Yep.
in distress, and
Hmm.
he died.
Hmm.
But it's because they didn't have the knowledge.
Yep.
Dogs that people will sit around and, yeah, trials are social events,
Hmm.
really.
Hmm.
You go and you have fun and you hang out with everybody, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's your dog's turn to run. Let me go grab my dog out of the car real fast and take him up to a line. Off we go.
Hmm.
Come back and, oh, why is my dog limping?
Yep. Yep.
Well, because you didn't warm him up.
Yep.
Um, and I've really gained a lot of knowledge uh, through Elite Canine,
Hmm.
and I take the time. We're two breeds ahead. I'm getting my dogs out. I'm going to start walking them now. I'm going to
Hmm.
start their warm up.
Yep.
Um, within 30 minutes, my dogs are warmed up. Their jackets are on. We're ready to go.
Hmm.
After they run, I'm walking my dogs 30 minutes, 45 minutes afterwards, and lots of people just take them off the field, throw them back in the crate,
Right.
and
Hmm.
off they go to talk again.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
exactly right.
it's
And I think that you know there's currently a group of people that myself, I'd like to include myself, yourself, with a number of people within Erica's elite canine athlete specialist course that are trying to educate, trying to lead the way in regards to canine fitness, and there's a whole different a lot that goes into it in regards to different elements. But let's talk about training. That once you get your, obviously, the website for the website up and running, I'd love to be able to, in the show notes of the podcast, link to that for you. So if anyone is interested, they can reach out to you. But in regards to sort of overall training, obviously we know that there's a number of different components go into it. But in your opinion, how does one, in a quick overview, get started, and what elements would you be sort of focusing on?
um, so these guys, they need to they need free running. They
Mm-hmm.
need some time out in a big area,
Mm-hmm.
off leash, stretching their bodies, using themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I free run my dogs 5 days a week.
Yep.
If I can manage 5 days a week, I love it. Sometimes it's just four. It depends on the weather. Uh, but they go out and they move and they just, my two young girls, I mean, they're chasing each other and they're running hard.
Mm-hmm.
My older boy, he's kind of thoughtful in his and how he expends his energy. So his is mostly just kind of trotting around, but they're moving and they're stretching. And that's, 30 minutes to an hour,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how they feel.
Yep.
Um, but we also, and those are usually sprints, they're
Okay.
sprinting.
Yep.
Um, I like to, when I'm really heavy duty competing, we had some bad weather, so I haven't been practicing endurance
Mm-hmm.
as much as I'd like,
Yep.
but I'm try to get them out um, up to 3 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I'll walk, jog, kind of hit cardio,
Yep.
what people would consider hit cardio. For about 3 miles, I do that 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yep.
and then along with that, if I might do hit cardio, I might do it on a trail that's right up the road for me.
Yep.
So we get varied terrain. So we're up and down some hills for some strength.
Yep.
Um, we do, I have a hill in my backyard that my girls sprint on, and that's just at their leisure. So
Yep.
they're almost every day that the young girls are doing strength. I do structured exercise for strength training, um, squats for them, down to stand, stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
So they do have a structured strength training um, 3 days a week.
Yep.
They don't need a lot, but they do need some because
Sure.
they have to be able to push through the turns.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but a huge piece for me is flexibility and balance as
Yes.
well.
I was sorry, I didn't mean to. That was my next
Oh,
question. How do you get let's just say a hound,
yes,
long, tall. How they're not they're not like a Australian Kelpie or cattle dog, or
no,
a border collie that does agility.
yeah,
How do you go with
yeah,
your balance and your proprioception with these type of dogs?
yeah. And my breed, they're to be in the standard, they're longer than they are tall. So
Hmm.
there's already they're not as stable there. They're not a square breed.
Yep.
So we work on three-legged stands. I have fit bone and fit pie equipment that we work on balance that way as well.
Yep.
Um, the flexibility piece is huge for these guys.
Yep.
So we're doing that every day.
Hmm.
We do stretching every day.
Yep.
We do balance and proprioception. Uh, my red girl is a little. She doesn't have a. She's not a real confident girl.
Yep.
So we work on that, just slowly going over ups and downs and on different unstable surfaces. It's a little slower with her.
Yep.
My old man, he'll just barrel through anything just for a treat. So
Yep. Yep.
but I've actually started agility with him as well.
Oh, yep.
So he's getting a lot of strength and balance and things through that too. So
Yeah.
they like to go run, and I love my coursing, but
Mhm.
he's my thinker and he needs another job. So we're doing agility too.
Yeah, I've
So
and I've got for me, so I've got two German short-haired pointers. Our primary sport
uh
is Kenny Cross bike draw, but one of them,
right.
he's happy to go and trot. He's not into going 100 miles an hour like the other, but so
Mhm.
I will Kenny Cross him, and but looking for, as you mentioned there, he's a thinker and looking for. He's very
Mhm.
methodical, so we started nose works and sent games with him. So like he'll come and run. I would say 10 kilometers, no problems, but he doesn't pull out in front. He's happy to just trot beside me in third gear all day. But very, very, um,
Right.
methodical, and as you mentioned, a thinker about things. So, looking for another outlet for him, because I don't want him to be he gets a little bit cheeky if he's not mentally and physically stimulated.
Yes, that's how my Jen is. He has to have a job,
Yeah.
which is interesting. My little red girl, she just falls to the walls. We're going to run as fast as we can and
Hmm.
just,
Yep.
let's go kill it.
Yep.
And he is like, okay, let's think about this for a minute.
Yep.
There might be something closer right over here. So I'm going to check this bush out and you go have fun. So,
That's exactly right. So it's awesome how potentially two dogs from very similar genetics, or same sort of breeding lines can be so different. Hey, in
mhm,
different ways. Um,
yes.
but so you've got competition coming up. What, this weekend? Yeah, this
This
week. This.
weekend,
Yep.
it's Magda field championship last November. So
Yep.
she's field champion. She's in the specials. I entered her
Mm,
just for warm for the International Invitational in
yep.
Iowa next month.
Yep.
And Jen, he surprised me.
Yep.
He's the one I didn't think would ever really run. And then I started all this fitness stuff with him, and he grew up and he matured.
Hmm.
And he picked up both his majors the 2 times we went out last year, and he's 7 single points away from finishing his field championship, and he will be my first dual champion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Super
hoping,
excited.
fingers crossed, this
Yeah.
weekend I come home with a dual champion. So
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Well, I won't jinx it just yet, but I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Um, you know,
yeah.
but certainly, you know, really looking forward to obviously dropping this podcast and letting people have a good understanding of the coursing events that are out there. Most of our listeners from the podcast are in the US. So they can certainly, once I get you get your website up and running, I can certainly link in
Mhm.
the show notes to that. And they can certainly grab that ebook on how to get started, or how would they go about reaching out? Have you got a Facebook page at the moment?
I do have a Facebook page.
Hmm?
It's under Lori Roberts.
Yep.
I'm going to launch a Hounds one. You can find me on Instagram under Syndicate Hounds as well.
Yep.
And the website's going up this weekend, and the ebook will be a free download
Hmm?
on my website.
Yeah.
I just really wanted to get that information out there.
Yep.
Um, and it's just a overview of kind of, you know, what you need to look for, what's important for your coursing dog, the
Hmm?
equipment they need,
Yep.
and kind of, your warm up, cool down, and you
Yep.
know,
The
and
important
then
things.
absolutely anytime I can, if anybody wants
Hmm?
more information, I'm available.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I was going to say, some of the important things in that ebook that often we overlook, or
Mhm.
we don't consider. As you mentioned earlier, you get the dog out of the back of the truck, or the crate, straight into a sprint that is, balls to the wall, 100, from 0 to 100 miles an hour,
Mhm.
within seconds. you know
Yes.
you know
Yes.
and I know that we, as humans, we certainly don't do that. And
Mhm.
unless you're an Olympic athlete, but
Right.
there's years of preparation and conditioning, and a systematic training approach that goes about that.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And you wouldn't ask somebody that just is a couch potato sitting on the couch
Mhm.
to get up and go run a 100-yard dash.
Mhm.
You just wouldn't do it.
Mhm.
It'd be impossible. And
Mhm.
I think I see so many people taking their couch potatoes off the couch
Mhm.
and go asking them to run 650 yards
Mhm.
all out.
Yep.
And uh, it doesn't take a lot, but
Mhm.
it takes some depending on where you want to compete at,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah. Look, we'll wrap it up there if that's okay. But look, I really
Okay.
appreciate, you, like I said, you're coming on, giving you a little bit of an insight into the coursing yourself, and also, if anyone's out there and they're looking to, to get involved, they can, I'll certainly be able to link once that's all up and running. So the podcast will be. Drop in a couple of weeks. So by the time the podcast goes live,
Okay.
we'll have all that information.
Perfect.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Is there anything that you'd like to
Gosh,
add?
it was good talking
Yeah,
to somebody that's in that's working with Erica too.
yeah,
So
no, it's exciting.
uh, that's great.
Is there anything you'd like to add in regards to lure coursing? How people can get involved before we sort of wind it up.
Um, no, it's just search. Just get out there and search. If you want to do it, there are people out there that will help you.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and even if it's somebody in another country, like if you have somebody in Australia that needs some info, I'm available. We really try to be really inclusive.
mm-hmm.
Our groups are getting kind of aged of
Yep,
late,
for
and we're
sure.
trying to find new blood. And the non-sight hound people, just come ask us questions. We're happy to help you get started. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
fantastic. Fantastic, guys. So if you've liked what you've heard today, please feel free to like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Reach out to Laurie if you have any questions, or myself. Happy to help.